Hi, welcome to Holy Week in a Box, Good Friday. It's good to be with you once again and hope you are keeping well. So let's see what's in the box today. Two things we need today. We've got a candle and some matches. So I'm going to light that candle today. And some nails. You may have a couple of sticks, or you may have some nails. Nails sharp and pointy. And one of the things you might want to do today is to turn them into a cross with some wire or with a bit of string or some blue tack or something, just to make a simple cross to remind you of Good Friday. So yesterday, Jesus was arrested and had been tried by the chief priest, by Caiaphas, and by the whole of the Sanhedrin, and found guilty and sentenced to death. He was now having to go to Pilate. Meanwhile, Peter had denied knowing Jesus and had left distraught, leaving his friend all alone. Well, Jesus went to Pilate and stood before him. And Pilate said to him about all the things that he had been charged with. But Jesus hardly said anything to him. Pilate was curious and said to Caiaphas, "But I don't find anything wrong with him." But Caiaphas insisted that Jesus had been found guilty of blasphemy and under Jewish law needed to be killed. Pilate thought about what he could do, and then he realised that they had a tradition at Passover that as the Roman governor he would release one prisoner. And so he stood in front of a large crowd that had gathered there, and he said to the crowd, "Who would you like me to release? Jesus Barabbas, a murderer, or Jesus of Nazareth, the King of the Jews?" The crowd, whipped up by some of the temple guards, shouted, "Barabbas." Pilate said again, "Are you sure you want Barabbas?" And they shouted, "We want Barabbas." "So what should we do? What should I do with this man, with Jesus of Nazareth?" They shouted, "Crucify him. Crucify him. Crucify him." Pilate could sense a riot forming, and so, taking a bowl of water, he washed his hands publicly and said, "I have no part in this." Jesus was taken away. He was stripped and he was whipped, and a crown of thorns was made for his head. The soldiers mocked him. And then they headed outside the city wall, to the place where they did the executions. The place called the Skull, or Golgotha in their language. Jesus carried his heavy cross along that dusty road. The crowds that had welcomed him on Palm Sunday just 5 days ago were mocking him and jeering him and treating him just like a criminal. Several times along the way he stumbled. The final time, the soldiers grabbed someone from the crowd and got them to carry his cross for him. They eventually reached the Golgotha, and there they nailed Jesus to the cross and lifted it up. And either side of him were two criminals. The chief priests, the Pharisees and the chief priests came along and they mocked him. They said he saved others, but he cannot save himself now. The crowd were jeering. And above him was written, Jesus of Nazareth, the King of the Jews. Caiaphas wasn't happy with this and went to Pilate. But Pilate said, I have written what I have written. So there Jesus hung from about 12 until 3 o'clock in the afternoon. One of the robbers who was with him mocked him, and the other one told him off and said to Jesus, when you get into your kingdom, remember me. And Jesus said to him, Today you will be with me in paradise. And then he said, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. Oh my God, why have you forsaken me? Some of the crowd thought he was calling for Elijah. Others thought he was thirsty. And some soldiers tried to give him some wine on a stick, from a sponge on a stick. And then, with his last breath, Jesus said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. It is finished. As his head slumped to the side, the sky grew dark and there was a clap of thunder. The curtain in the temple was torn in two and the earth shook. And the soldier standing by said, Surely this was God's Son. I wonder what your feelings would have been if you were in the crowd that day. Would you have shouted to crucify Jesus? Or would you have tried to save him? Would you have mocked him? Or would you have looked with pity and sadness? I wonder how Jesus felt about being abandoned by his friends. about the soldiers? I wonder what they thought was going on. Not straight away, it was just a normal day for them. But at the end, as the earth shook, I wonder how the crowds felt when they saw Jesus die. Today is a difficult day. Everything seems hopeless. Jesus is dead. So as I blow the candle out, to symbolising that snuffing out of life, we remain quiet and watch the smoke drift into space.